In 1992, Tulalip was a small tribe of 2,500 tribal members. Our businesses were limited to a smoke shop, liquor store, land leasing, and a small bingo operation which employed less than 100 people, mostly tribal members. Now, 30 years later, the Tulalip Tribes owns a thriving business park, 2 casinos, as well as a separate bingo operation, a cannabis store, and has plans for diversifying and expanding its economic base. So how did all of this happen in the span of just one generation? Hibulb Conversations talks with former Tulalip Board of Director and Tribal Elder Les Parks to ask how Tulalip became an economic powerhouse in Snohomish County and Washington State. Hi, I'm Michelle Hernandez and welcome to Hibulb Conversations. With us today is Les Parks. Thank you for joining us today, Les.
You're welcome, Michelle.
Being on the Tulalip Tribe's Board of Directors for many years, you saw firsthand the growth of casino gambling at Tulalip. What made Tulalip go after casino gambling in the first place?
Well, you're going to go back quite a few years, Michelle. So I first got elected as a Board of Director in 1996.
Okay.
And we had first brought table games to Tulalip in 1992, I believe, 93, somewhere in there. And in those days, before my board years, I was a contractor.
Okay.
And so back then, there were no contractors on the Tulalip Reservation. I was it.
You were it.
And so the board at that time, I recall Stan Jones and Ray Freiberg, and I think Marie was there, and a few other board members approached me and said, hey, we've got this great bingo hall, but we want to convert half of it into a table games casino. And can you do it? I said, oh, sure, I can do that. Just give me some money.
Yeah.
And so we went about, for about a year and a half, remodeled the old bingo hall, half of it into a table games casino. And how did we get there? I wasn't an elected board member at that time, but I do recall how hard the tribe fought to get table games onto the reservation, because of course we had bingo. The off-reservation folks were doing table games for their charity events.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And so Stan and the rest of the board went and argued very, very well at the legislature level and in DC that we should have the right to do whatever the charity guys are doing, because we're a sovereign nation. We have the right to do a casino, table games, just like the charity folks do. And it wasn't an easy fight, but they finally won that battle. And in 1992, I believe, is when they got the compact approved to get table games in, and then hired me to convert the building into a table games facility.
And can you tell me a little bit about the compact?
I don't know much about how who actually drafted it. We had attorneys back then, Doug Bell, and I think he was intimately involved in that process, and don't know much about how the board back then.
But this compact is the compact between Washington State and tribes, or specifically Tulalip?
It was, back then it was specifically Tulalip.
Okay.
I believe Lummi was actually the first table games casino to open, but they did not open with a compact.
Okay.
They were renegades back in those days.
Good for them.
Some things just never change.
Yeah.
But they opened up their table games casino without a compact. Tulalip Tribes was actually the first compacted tribe in the state of Washington to be able to do table games. And thanks to our strong leadership back then, they were able to pull it off.
So that compact was the first stage for us?
Very first stage. We weren't ready to start tearing down our bingo hall and turning it into a casino until we actually had a compact that's saying it was legal.
And we actually merged them, right? We had the bingo and table games together?
All in one building,
Okay.
that's right.
And what was the thought process behind that?
Well, bingo, well, it started out with a bang in 83, if I
Yeah.
remember right. By 1992, 93, it was starting to, tail off a little bit. And we knew that with the leadership back then knew that with table games, we could start earning some real revenue, much more than what the bingo hall was able to produce. And the bingo did very well for us.
Yeah. And who, you had mentioned a couple of people, but do you remember who all was on the board at the time?
Back in 1993, 92-ish, in those time frames, I recall the board members being Stan Jones, Herman Williams Sr., Herman Williams Jr., Ray Freiberg, Cal Taylor, Don Simpson, and Marie Zacchius.
Okay.
So we had 7 tribal leaders that fought really hard to get table games onto our reservation.
Okay. So we had the idea, then we did the compact, we built it, and it was an overnight success, would you say?
Absolutely, it was. Of course, it was only table games back then, but I can remember of course, I was the contractor, so I basically lived on the property for a year and a half. And so when that first night opened, and the customers just absolutely loved what they seen.
Yeah.
And the table games were just full of excitement and cheering and clapping, and it was a lot of fun.
And do you remember how, revenue-wise, how we did?
Tulalip had never fell into this much money before, and it was brand new to us, and we actually grew way too fast for this tribe. And
so now mid-90s, you're on the board.
So I run for the board in 96, very first time I'd ever, a first time candidate, and I got myself elected.
And who was elected with you that year?
Glenn Gobin.
Okay.
And back in those days, I can remember we had an overall $11 million budget.
For everything?
Everything. That was all revenue inclusive, and that was thanks to the table games. It was, $11 million, and we were having a budget crisis in 1996.
I feel like we have one every year.
With all this new money, and here we are in 2022, and we're having a budget crisis in 2022. Things never change. The membership grows, the needs always grow, and there's never enough revenue. So,
what was decision making like during that time, especially with all that new money?
It was tough because there was, as today, back then there was so many needs of the people that we were trying to fulfill with a very limited budget.
Yeah.
And I don't believe we had a per capita back in those early days, and it started off with a $500 per capita per year. And to me, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah. It's like $50 a month or
Very,
something.
very thankful that we got it, because growing up, and a lot of kids will remember this, a lot of my generation, our annual per capita was a brown paper bag with candy and an apple and an orange at Christmas time.
Yeah, from Uppy.
So $500 was really, really nice to get as a tribal member, and it was, so that would have been in 1996. All this newfound revenue starts flowing in.
Just from table games?
Just from table games.
When did slots come into play?
It was, so 1996, Quilceda Village did not exist yet.
Okay.
And so I can remember my very first public speaking event as this brand new board member was standing on the overpass at 88th Street going into Marysville, and celebrating this new overpass off the freeway, but there was nothing on our side of the freeway. It was all on the other side of Marysville. And so I was fortunate enough to be elected alongside of Glenn when we conjured up the idea of fulfilling the former tribal leaders' dreams of converting the 2,000-acre property up there alongside I-5 into a business park. And so we set our sights on converting Quilceda Village into a business park. We didn't have enough money to get started. Banks would not lend to Indian tribes money back in 1993. We were basically redlined out of the banking system. And somehow we were able to get the BIA to guarantee a loan for us, a $5 million loan. And that's how we got started moving earth And $5 million wasn't going to build Quilceda Village. So we built it one step at a time, negotiated with Walmart, a deal with Walmart, and that was not an easy task because Walmart had their sights on the 4th Street area.
Oh.
And they, back in those days, they would not put Walmarts within 100 miles of each other. And so they had their little professional people drawing little circles on their maps and saying, this is where it needs to be. And we kept telling them, no, we don't want it there. And for about a year and a half, we argued and debated with the Walmart folks, and finally, Herman Jr. and I, and I think Mel was with us, Mel Sheldon at the time, flew back to Arkansas and sat in Walmart's headquarters with their top brass. And we basically gave them an ultimatum, said either you guys, we're tired of this dance, and either you come up to this site where we want to put it and call it our business park, or we're done. And they buckled. And we ended up getting Walmart to sign on the dotted line to move from the 4th Street up to the business park. And then Home Depot followed. And as each contract was signed, we leveraged those contracts to borrow money. And finally the banks started opening up because we had these 30-year leases that we could leverage. And as each contract was let, we would leverage it and dig a little more dirt up north. And we kept that plan in place, knowing that if we kept going, we would get the 2,000 acres developed eventually. I was fortunate enough to have served on tribal council during the Tulalip tribe's greatest years of growth. Going from a little bit of revenue to amounts we did not believe possible.
Never thought, Thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Hibulb conversations. Welcome back. We are here with Les Parks and learning all about Tulalip's business with gaming. Welcome back, Les.
Thank you.
So the tribe is now involved with casinos. We've got table games, slot machines with our Quilceda Creek Casino. How did we start planning for the big casino?
Well, it was a no-brainer. I can remember when we first got slot machines, and we did not know what to expect with slot machines. We traveled the country. When I say we, the board, and as I recall, Herman Jr. was the chairman at the time, and we did a lot of traveling. Stan was right there, Mel, and we needed to see what other casinos were doing and what kind of revenue they were making. But we, being the first in Washington State, we had no clue what we were going to make. We knew what we thought we could make. And I can remember I was the treasurer at the time, and I can remember sending Hermie an email and the rest of the board, and I said, I think we can do $40 per machine per day. And when we opened up, and I said, that'll be money we've never ever seen. And that's.
Do you remember how many machines we're talking about?
God, I think we had 1,500 at the time. But I remember my letter said, I think we can make $40 million a year. Can you imagine?
Could you imagine?
Mr. Chairman, Herman Williams Jr., what would this tribe do with $40 million a year? Well, we opened up the slot machines, and right away we were up to $200 per machine per day. It was just blew us away.
Craziness.
Crazy new money. And so we knew that every slot machine that we brought to that property was going to produce enormous amounts of money. So we had to make the tough decision to take over the rest of the building and to move bingo into their own facility. And so we started planning, building their new bingo hall up there where it is today, up on near 88th Street. But in the meantime, we had to relocate them to a rented building across the street, which was back then was known as the Hewlett Packard building. And so we remodeled Hewlett Packard and moved bingo out of where they were born, across the street into Hewlett Packard, and then we promptly put more slot machines in the
In
bingo,
that space,
or
yeah.
in the new Quilceda Creek Casino. And the money was amazing.
Yep.
That's how our per capita started growing, and the membership, of course, had more needs, and there was never ever enough money. It was seemed like it was. You would think that it would be enough money, but with all the
Programs and services.
programs, services, hopes, dreams, we had a lot of visions for where we were going to go in the future, and but it was great to see all that new money coming in.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges of the casino?
I don't recall many challenges.
And then the reason for building the new casino was just more space,
Right.
bigger.
Yeah. So about year 2000, as I recall, we're in this bingo facility, which is now all slot machines, and we were bursting at the seams.
Yeah.
And we knew we needed another facility, so we again traveled the country, wanted to see what other casinos looked like, and
Do you remember some of the places you visited?
oh yeah, we went to San Diego area, had about
Pachanga.
7 casinos at the time. Pachanga, Viejas, Verona. We went into Louisiana, went into Connecticut, into Florida. We traveled quite a bit to check out what would we want to see. And then Washington State didn't have any architects that built a casino before, so we put out a RFP, request for proposal, and we ended up hiring architect Jerry Rule. And it's, still the most gorgeous casino in the state as far as I'm concerned. And so he ended up putting together some pretty good drawings. I remember the grand opening for that, as I recall, was in 2003. And I can remember the grand opening well, because I was intimately involved in all that. And this gorgeous new property, I wanted our members to see and have the best experience of their lifetime. And so I asked the board, we need to rent limousines. And
I remember that.
And we need to put all of our elders in a limousine and bring them up to this grand opening, tribal member night opening. And we rented every limousine from Vancouver, BC, down to Seattle and everything in between. And we had hundreds, in my memory, of limousines on the reservation, just driving to houses, picking up elders and dropping them at the front door. And what a night that was, opening up our new facility in style for our elders.
I remember.
It was awesome.
I worked there.
You did? Good.
I did. In the buffet. So we really were only under construction for that project for 3 years before opening, design and construction.
Yeah. We ended up, as it turned out, down at the Verona Casino, we modeled what they were doing to bring up to Tulalip. And so Verona was a lot of inspiration for us, the Verona folks down in San Diego.
It's something that I just love about our tribal communities, how willing we are to help each other. I'm sure you are all treated like kings and queens down there.
And we treated them like kings and queens when they came up here. And they were so involved with us in helping us get to where we were with the new casino that we invited them up to help us do the grand opening.
Wow.
And the Verona tribe is in the San Diego area, but they're up on a mountain, top of a mountain, and you got to climb a long, windy road to get there. Yet they were the top casino in the San Diego area because of how they were, what they were doing with their customers and their employees. And we actually recruited a gentleman away from Verona to help us with our STARS program, as we called it.
So did we keep the Quilceda Creek open?
No.
We closed it.
We closed it.
Okay.
And back in those days, when we closed that down, we knew that we had the option for a second casino. I can't remember which tribe had negotiated that into their compact. And so we were automatically grandfathered in to that ability to have a second casino. And so I lobbied the board hard to reopen after we had this big grand opening in our brand new casino, the Tulalip Casino. I lobbied to reopen the old Quilceda Creek building, which sat vacant. We pretty much just pulled everything out of there and left it, and the rodents started taking over, and it was just a mess. And the board, there was no way in heck that they were going to reopen the old casino when we just opened the new casino. But I did not give up. I pushed hard. I lobbied hard. Their big argument was, and I knew it wasn't going to be an argument. Why would we take our customer out of this new casino and bring them down to the old casino? And I kept at them. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We have a loyal base that wants that casino.
Yep.
And after about 6 months of not giving in, and I can be pretty relentless when it comes to set my mind on something, the board finally said, "Shut up. Here's $1 million. Go open it, and we'll see how you do." And so we assembled a team of top staff, and we went to work and cleaned up the building, rewired it, brought in some slot machines, and it ended up being a $1.5 million expense. But that $1.5 million turned itself over so many times since then. And we never did take the new customer away.
Right.
We had our own loyal, locals-based customer.
Yeah.
So it was well worth the $1.5 million investment.
Well worth the 6-month fight.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. At the end of it was, I told you so.
Yeah, I bet. So we've got now 2 casinos. We have a bingo. When do we decide to add a hotel?
Shortly out. Well, we knew we were going to build a hotel eventually with the new casino. So it was shortly after it opened up. I think we commissioned Jerry Rule Parr to start designing the hotel. 2003, 2004, if I remember right, we start the new hotel project. But we had this big debate in the boardroom about, we had Seattle Premium Outlets, and that was a sweet deal that we had brought this brand new outlet center to Tulalip to complement our gaming facility. And so I was pushing really hard to get that hotel located on the north side of this new casino.
Because we have the amphitheater too now.
Where the amphitheater, we would have been right next to the amphitheater. So I had, in my vision, this moving sidewalk going over to the outlet mall, and people just going back and forth with an amphitheater in between.
We called it the Central Hub, remember that?
The Central Hub, that's right. And but we had some other board members that said, no, we want it on the south side of the casino.
Right.
And we went back and forth, and again, I did not give up. I put up the fight to keep it in the Central Hub area next to the amphitheater. And the board finally got fed up with the 2 board members going back and forth. And I can remember I actually printed out a newspaper, which I changed everything on a newspaper and said, Tulalip agrees to put the hotel on the north side. Well, the board got fed up with what I was doing and
your antics.
And my antics. And Herman Williams Jr. was the chairman at the time. And he finally broke the 3-3 tie that we had. I had 3 board members, 2 with me, and 3 other board members on the south side. And Hermie broke the tie, and we ended up on the south side. Still a great project, but in my opinion, it would have been better on the north side.
More cohesive. Central Plaza, I think that's what we
So we opened up this 400-room hotel. And when it opened, I was actually not a board member anymore. So I had lost an election. And I decided in 2006 when I lost, and I think that was the year that it opened, the hotel opened, that I was going to just take a...
Yeah, I think it opened 2008.
2008, okay. Started building it in 2006
Yep.
then. And then I lose the election, and I decide I need to stay away from politics for a while. And so I left politics for about 8 years.
Wow.
And so the hotel opened without me. Of course, I was there for the grand opening and all that went with that. And what a phenomenal project it was. I think to this day, they still run at about 90% occupancy.
They sure do. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more Hibulb Conversations. Welcome back to Hibulb Conversations. Today we're here with Les Parks talking about Tulalip's history with gaming. Welcome back, Les.
Thank you.
So we've got a new casino, we've got the old casino, we have a resort. So what prompted the building for the new Q?
Well, that was really an easy decision. The bingo hall was built in 1983. Imagine 1983, there are no earthquake provisions
nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And so it's the building leaked right from day one. There was always problems with the roof. The electrical is not up to code to where it should be today. And being earthquake ready is far from where it is. That thing would topple over in the right earthquake. And so we knew we had to build a new casino eventually. We had to get that building emptied, and eventually it's going to be tore down. And I'm guessing in about 2 years. But we knew that we had to build a new building for it, and so we debated it in the boardroom. The site location, where were we going to put it? And so we kicked that around for a couple of years.
And you've been part of that decision-making process. You were on council at that time.
I was part of that decision, yes. And we ended up putting it where it is today. We had a lot of issues to work through. We had the Arby's, which was smack dab right in the middle of our parking lot. And
the Tulalip Inn.
we had the Tulalip Inn. We had to demolish that. And we very easily could have taken over the Tulalip Inn and converted it into something, but it's gone.
Yeah.
Arby's is gone, and here's this gorgeous new,
it is beautiful,
Quill City Creek Casino, which it kind of grew a little bit more than what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a little more low key.
Yeah.
Remain the locals, but it's like that midway casino now.
Yeah.
Midway between the high end and the locals. You got this other casino, and that's the Q, and it does amazingly well to this day.
Had to build that through the pandemic and all of that. What kind of process was that?
Well, of course, I wasn't on the board then, but I sat back and watched it, and living through a pandemic is something nobody on earth had ever done. Living human being had ever been through, at least in this country. And so we had to fight through that, and yet open up a casino, a brand new casino in the midst of a pandemic. But the customers were undeterred. They showed up in droves with their masks, and they're still there today.
Yeah. Do you think we have any more plans for new casinos, or are we going to stop at 2?
Well, I think there is a possibility for a third casino. I don't think we'll ever get there, but I had lobbied the board for that several years ago, during my non-board member years, to no avail.
You weren't persistent enough.
But it's possible.
Okay. What do you think the future of gaming is?
Gaming is always going to be here. In what form or fashion in the future, I don't know.
Got a contract with sports betting now. How do you think that'll impact?
Well, sports betting is it's what you make it to be. And to this day, we don't have a sports betting facility yet. and we should have, when we open it, it will do great for us. But it is what you make it out to be. It can be a little tiny thing, or it can be a great big thing.
Huge.
Significant, and I want to see Tulalip do it significantly. Sports betting can make Tulalip a lot of money.
Yeah. How do you think Tulalip has impacted our surrounding communities?
Tulalip is a powerhouse, and although we've kind of slowed down a little bit of recent years, Tulalip is highly respected in this community, in North County, in the entire state of Washington, and actually on the West Coast and across the entire United States. Tulalip built a name for themselves based on our past leaders and what they were able to bring to the table. Yeah. And so consequently, we've earned a lot of respect locally. Snohomish County, the city of Marysville, Everett, the state of Washington, the legislatures, they all place a high amount of respect on Tulalip. And when Tulalip talks, people listen.
Yeah.
And that wasn't always the case.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there was a time we couldn't even get a loan.
That's right. That's right.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. From 1996, where banks would not lend us $5 million, to today, where they're throwing money at you. They want you to borrow. All we got to do is develop some good business plans, and the banks will throw the money at it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much for your years of service and leadership in our community.
You're welcome, Michelle. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Les. And thank you for watching Hibulb Conversations. Until next time, I'm Michelle Hernandez.